to find what Dave's problem is.
Okay, it looks like we're live.
Are we live? Okay. On behalf of the City Council and the staff at Syracuse City, we'd like to welcome you to our fiscal year 2022 annual budget retreat. This forum is being broadcast live through Zoom and is also available on YouTube. If you go to the city website, you can get both the information about those links and you can join us in the meeting. We are holding this meeting as a virtual meeting under the amendments that were made to the Open and Public Meetings Act in June of 2020 by the governor that allows the chair of any meeting, because of the risk of COVID transmission, to hold that meeting virtually without an anchor location. So we are scattered throughout City Hall, and we're also scattered in the Public Works area. We're also over at the community center, and we're also at the police station. And some of us, most of the council is at home. Councilman Teague is actually here at City Hall with us. So we welcomed you to the meeting, and I would take a volunteer to open this meeting with prayer, if you would. Do I have a volunteer? Can I name somebody?
I'll do it, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for the opportunity that we have to meet through technology and that we are able to discuss the needs of our city and try to lay out a plan to affect all of the issues that we have. And we pray for light hearts and spirits, and pray for all of us to get along well and to have understanding and clarity. We're thankful for all of the staff members who've put so much work into these presentations, and pray that we will have, that we will all understand what's happening and be unified as to how we want to take care of these issues. We appreciate living where we do and when we do, and we pray for peace in our land. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Seth, I know you're in the conference room where you have a flag. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Have a flag at home, if not, imagine one.
Will everybody please rise? Repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Council, you have the agenda before us. There is no need, since this is a work session, for us to approve that agenda. Maybe a point of clarification might be valuable, though, at this point concerning that agenda. You'll see at 10:10 that we have scheduled a break, a 10-minute break. We will recess at that point or somewhere near that point and allow individuals to get up and walk around and stretch a bit. It gets a little hard. In fact, for me, I'm going to have to get and walk around about every 45 minutes because of the lower back problem I've got right now.
Oh, no.
At 12 o'clock, we're going to split Robert's presentation into two parts. At 12 o'clock, we will stop for a 30-minute break. And last time we met in a retreat, I provided you with a lunch sack. Today, you're on your own. You'll have to find your own lunch sack, and you'll have to fill your own lunch, build your own lunch. What we'd ask you to do is do that, and then come back and join us. And then we'll continue Robert's presentation from Public Works. And so we will effectively have a working lunch. Our goal is to have you back with your families and whatever else you're doing by about 3 o'clock. So we thought that that would be the preferred method of holding this meeting. There are some advantages and disadvantages of the electronic media that we're using. So any questions before we begin? Cassie, Dave still hasn't joined us.
No, I still don't see him.
Okay. Well, let me go through this a little bit, and then I'll try to see if I can't get a hold of him. This is the annual 2022 annual budget retreat. What I'd like to do is kind of break the ice here with a little video, because we're going to be talking about stretching dollars. This is a dollar stretcher.
No.
What?
No.
What?
No. Watch and learn. Boom. See that? Huh? And that is how you change 1 gallon of whole milk into 3 gallons of skim milk. Cha-ching. I just saved you $5.
I'm not drinking this water milk.
Dad, I'm not wearing any more homemade t-shirts. I wanted Hollister. She wrote Hollister. Look, a pterodactyl. This is supposed to be a seagull.
We may be cheap, but we're not going to sell our souls for copyright infringement. Besides, this beautiful handcrafted tea got us $20 closer to our goal.
Diluted milk? I'd rather die of dehydration.
Well, you might. Breakfast Tanner. Now eat your MRE. It's Santa Fe skillet with red roasted peppers.
Ugh.
Hey, guys, no more complaining, all right? We all agreed that we were gonna sacrifice for this family photo, and we're not even close, so everyone's gotta step it up.
Wait a minute, I ride my bike to work every single day. I'm saving money on shaving cream. I canceled our cable and I watch our neighbor's TV with binoculars.
Why do we need to pay $400 for a stupid picture?
Because families are forever. And besides, I do not want my grandchildren to remember me like this.
Ugh. What were you thinking? We look like Pez dispensers.
How many times do I have to say that I'm sorry, all right? Aunt Gina was taking a Photoshop class and it was free.
And we got what we paid for.
I like it.
That's the spirit. Now, if you'll all excuse me, I'm gonna go in the backyard and check the traps to see what we're having for dinner.
Surprise.
It's going great. Yeah. No, I make the kids lunches, which saves us like $8 a day. Plus, we're getting rid of the expired food storage. I know, right? Right. Wait, can I call you back?
What are you doing in my trash?
Boom.
What's that?
Wheat.
Wheat what?
Just wheat. Trade for your sandwich?
No.
You just have to think outside the box. And not get sued for trademark violation.
Yeah.
Come on, don't hang up the walls. Be careful, don't trip on the top stair.
Tanner Mitchell Moore, what is going on here?
Craigslist, Mom. You always say you hate this couch. They're paying me $75 for it.
75. Craig, is it? For $80, I'll throw in some pillows.
It'll look so nice. And if it's too small, we have another chair downstairs.
Yeah. It's made us all much more creative. For instance, I'm about to take a bath / do my laundry. I know. Why hasn't anybody else thought of that? And that was Napoleon Dynamite.
Gosh.
I like the regular one better.
It's no electricity movie night, and we just saved $40. Plus, it was in 3D. Don't be jealous of my super sweet moves.
Can I go to the bathroom now?
Yeah, but only 2 squares of toilet paper. You know we can't afford anymore.
No, wait. 8 squares tonight, baby. The Nielsen's got TP'd, and I volunteered to clean up.
Oh, it's quilted.
Cha-ching.
Sweet.
It's just like Christmas.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're still $100 short. If we have another garage sale, we'll have to sell the garage. But we're so close, I can smell it.
That smell is me. For every shower I don't take, we save $1.97. I did the math. Hey, why don't you just do a fundraiser with the comedy troupe?
That's brilliant. Hey, will you pass me the detergent? If you want me to wash that shirt, I'm doing colors.
I haven't been this nervous since I got stuck at the slide at McDonald's.
Oh, they had those height restrictions on there for a reason.
$220. Costumes, the venue, the mic rental. You owe the troop $30.
Oh, Gracie.
Oh, come on! I just wanted a family photo that didn't turn us into an internet meme.
You know, I don't really want to see one of those photos again either.
They're really awful.
Really depressing.
Oh, you guys. You're the most generous of friends. Thank you. Oh, nice.
Generous friends, Ryan. Give it up.
Breast mints, my final offer.
All right. Enough? That's good. Thanks, guys. Excuse me, prints are extra? Well, then what was the $400 for?
That was for the sitting.
Sitting. Okay, so let me get this straight. So people call you up and say, will you take pictures of my family, but don't bother developing any of the negatives. We just want to practice sitting.
No, no one says that.
Exactly.
All right, then would you like me to destroy these negatives?
No. You do not know what I had to do to afford these. What about... Okay. This is all I have left. What can I get for that?
Are you a famous blogger?
No.
Then nothing.
What if I throw in some breath mints?
One wallet size.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I had the guy at Kinko's blow it up. What do you think? Please tell me it was worth it.
Well, I like it. I love it. I do. Do you know what I see when I look at those beautiful smiling pixel faces?
Minecraft?
Cubism?
The old Nintendo?
Yes, but do you know what else I see? I see a family that sacrificed together to build something bigger than themselves. You know? I think we look like $1 million. I do. Or at least $400. If you squint really hard.
Hi everybody, I'm Lisa Valentine Clark, and this is Jared Carden and Jeff Parkin, and we're the executive producers for Pretty Darn Funny. And we really hope you liked this episode.
Especially since we went a little over budget when we made it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't afford for all of us to be in high definition. I lost the arm wrestle.
Hefty thank you to our sponsor, Deseret Book, and our fabulous cast and crew.
Help Jeff become high resolution again by liking, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. And leave us a comment below and let us know the craziest thing you've ever done to save money.
Jeff, you look so 80s and not in a really cool hipster way.
Who cares? I can do this. And I'm not exactly threatening you to subscribe, but remember what happened to Bowser.
Well, we're here to ration the money that the city has today. And as you remember, last year at this time, we were just beginning to understand what COVID was all about. in fact, we met in a similar circumstance last May or April, just before a work session, and ironed out the budget so that we could present a tentative budget in that first business May meeting. We've lived with this COVID now for this time, and we are slowly returning to the real world. Now, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the family that produced this, because we've kind of lost track of what else families go through in their lives. This whole family, the Christopher Layton Clark family, they live in Provo, down in Utah County. He must have some roots up here, because Christopher Layton is the original founder of Layton. So I'm interested to find out whether or not he has ties up here. He is the professor. He's a professor at UVU in the UVU theater department, and she is a professional blogger. So that was why that little thing was thrown in there. Now, what they don't tell you was when they were making that movie, he was beginning early symptoms of ALS, and Christopher died last June during the high, as the COVID crisis was going on. It kind of occupied all of our minds, COVID, pandemic, but in everyday lives of people, there were other things going on, and he died in June of 2020. So as we begin to talk about the budget, let's remember that there are individual families being impacted by the decisions that we make, not only residents, but staff, our employees. And so with that said, let's begin a discussion of money and see what we can do. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing and then turn this meeting over to Brody and Steve, who have organized the budget. They've been working on that since November of last year. They did a little fine tuning after our review that we had in January, but they've been working feverishly on this for the last 90 days. I have seen the budget at least 4 or 5 times. So I'm well acquainted with what they're going to say to you, and they're going to say it through the mouths of some department heads. So Brody, I'm going to stop sharing and allow you to take the screen.
All right. Thank you. So before we get into this, it's somebody's birthday today, is it not?
Mayor.
If we could get everybody who's able to turn their screens on, we're going to sing happy birthday to Mayor Gailey.
Yay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
On 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy
birthday
to
you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mayor. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
That was horrid.
That was recorded and forever forever put in record.
Let me just make a comment. I'm not a music critic, but I think that was a tempo of about 71.
Also known as a funeral march.
Yes.
Yeah.
Terrible. Faster next time.
Should we do it again? All right. Thank you, Brody. Let's go on with the meeting.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay, so remember this model we looked at back in January. So when we put the budget together, we take our long-term financial model that we discussed. We also combined it with your priorities that you gave us at that goals retreat. And those are the kind of the guiding ingredients, if you will, that we use to put the annual budget together. So from this, remember we had our projected staffing that we talked about over the next 10 years that we would expect. For fiscal year 22, the items outlined in black are the items that we had discussed, except for maybe the building inspection. We're kind of shoestringing our building inspection. We do know that we expect a lot more permitting and inspections this year, but we want to be really, really tight on adding building inspectors because the ability to pay for building inspectors is dependent on that growth, which can be volatile. So what we're going to try to do this year is just use some overtime and maybe hire out if we get in over our heads a little bit to help out. We did add, okay, was there a question?
I just know we talked about police and that's not on here at all. So.
Okay, yeah, I'll get to that.
So I actually have a question on building inspectors.
Yeah.
So with the new bill that I know it got vetoed, but I'm assuming it's going to be back. I'm just curious, is it cheaper for us to let them hire a third party than to us fund it?
Is it cheaper?
Not as safe.
So yeah, there's a lot of nuances that have to be worked out in with that bill. First of all, it probably won't affect us that much because we tend to get our permits and inspections done on time. And so builders in Syracuse really haven't had a problem to where they would want to go hire some. It will probably be more expensive for the builder to hire someone outside. But as far as, the city budget, there would be, there would be some impacts there. So there's also the question of, public safety, and if there's, if something were to happen and people get hurt, who's liable, those kind of questions are still kind of need to get ironed out. So it's kind of a complicated answer, and I apologize, but yeah, you can pretty much offload inspections. I just don't know if that's in the public interest. That would probably be where the debate would take place.
Yeah, that's what I would say, Jordan and Brody, that our number one priority, the reason why we're doing the inspections is the public interest, to make sure these buildings are safe. And our guys are really good, and they do catch stuff all the time. And so I know the bill does say that they have to be independent, certified and all that. So I think when it comes right down to it, we don't really know exactly whether or not it would be cheaper. Regardless, we're still going to have to take the permits. We're still going to have to manage some things. So even if they are getting their own inspectors, there's still added staff time for the city.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll have more discussions on that in the future.
Yeah. We'll get into the details of all of these when we get to each department. This is just an overview. I did want to mention we added $250,000 from the general fund to Class C for road projects, because as you recall, that was outlined in our infrastructure long-term plan. So keep in mind that that's there. We have that money that we've budgeted in the general fund. Now, over on the right-hand side in red, you see the traffic safety unit, and that's the police department staffing that we actually had on the long-term plan. It's currently not in the draft budget, and it is a large number, and that's part of the reason why we felt like it might fit better next year, although there are some points to be made as to why it should be this year, and we'll discuss that. In green is the park maintenance worker and vehicle. And that one on our long-term model was originally scheduled for fiscal year 23. If we were to, especially if we were to move the traffic safety unit to next year with the 405,000, there is some room to juggle, move one from next year up to this year. And so that frees up 107,000 for next year to help fund the traffic safety unit next year. So it's kind of fitting puzzle pieces together. And that might happen from time to time where one year, switches with another as we get into the details. Okay. These are the 4 areas that we discussed at the goals retreat. Okay. Starting with the general plan and the PEP priorities, we have 15,000 for the study of our tax increment financing area at Antelope and 3000 West. And we have 200,000 set aside. These are in the RDA budgets for to redo the parking lot. And that's in preparation for selling off that centerpiece that we own in the park, in the town center. Then we discussed the 2500 West extension. Now keep in mind, due to the fact that much of the PRI property that is between 700 South and SR 193, they are indicating to us that because they are selling the piece by the high school, that much of the land or all of the land along 193 around 2500 West is probably in a 5-year holding pattern because of their nonprofit requirements. However, that time is about the time we'll probably need to actually make the efforts and get things in order so that it's ready to be built as soon as possible. So we have non-monetary efforts is what I have here, because we don't have any specific money budgeted to build 2500 West because currently its alignment is held in private property. However, with some of the staffing additions we have in CED, that can kind of help unleash NOAA to work towards this with more time on that. And then there's develop the NI-15 brand. And so we've put some specific money aside for things that you see here that will promote and help establish that brand. So there's some specific money set aside in the various budgets for that. Okay, it's feel free if you have any questions as we go along, just chime in. There was a consensus on the council that based on the fund balances available, we would probably want about somewhere around a 50-50 split between park development and land acquisition. Right now, we don't have any specific development projects to do. We do have replacement projects in the 5-year plan and that sort of thing. But we did set aside money for design of the regional park. There is 60,000 for the new park signage, which would be part of the branding and signage study or effort that we're doing. And then we have our fund balances available for both park development and land acquisition. Non-monetary efforts means we are going out and meeting with landowners and looking for land to buy for the future. You told us, even so, based on all the priorities and all the staffing planning, there were certain priorities the council had in paramedics, benchmark adjustments with the police department, and street maintenance. And so those, there's money set aside for all of those in this draft budget. We'll get the benchmark adjustments in the police department do not go all the way up to the 60th percentile. It goes about 70% of the way. And we can discuss if you want to go further here in the meeting. Okay, so capital improvement plan. So this is actually a pretty good milestone since in the 7 years I've been here. This is the best outlook we've ever had in our utility and capital improvement plan, because things aren't running out of funding in years 2 and 3. So in streets, we've funded all the way through year 4, and we don't run into any funding problems until year 5. That's an improvement. We've got all 5 years covered with culinary and secondary. Storm drain fund is the one that's still hanging out there. We've got this upcoming year covered, but year 2 runs a negative, and then sewer is covered all 5 years. So we're getting there. It's looking good. I think we've made a lot of progress over the last several years, and it's taken a lot of effort. Okay, I wanted to go through this little shuffle because as we get into some of these various departments, this is something we've already done in an effort to optimize the resources and staffing that we currently have. So that's part of my job, to make sure that we optimize what we do have in resources. And part of this process with the council, this is your budget. And so, your job is to allocate resources. My job and the administration's job is to make sure that those resources are optimized. So this is the current situation we have in staffing for court, CED, and legal. So court, there's a supervisor. We have a full-time clerk / admin, and then a part-time clerk. In CED, there's the director. Now, this isn't the whole department. This is just one aspect. There's the director, and then a planner, and then an admin who does business licenses. And then in our legal department, we have our attorney, and then a part-time admin who also helps out with passports. What we've done so far is, due to the historical decline in both cases and revenue in the court, I felt that we reached a point that we could reallocate some of the resources we have in the court over to areas of the city where we need more resources. And so it's kind of a 3-part move here. The first one, we had Jennifer, who was our part-time admin in legal. She actually took a job in Salt Lake with a full-time job. So she left, and we decided not to backfill that position yet. And maybe not ever, or for a long time. And then what we did is we took the full-time clerk from court and moved it into legal, where she will do those administrative tasks in legal. She will help out with passports. She also does administrative work for the mayor and I. Okay, so we've taken that, and effectively what that has done is we've eliminated one part-time position, okay, in the budget. And then what you'll see later today is we have a request for a new planner, and the elimination of that part-time position in this whole shuffle is designed to help pay for that new planner. So that you don't have to bear the full cost of that new planner. So that's kind of a little shuffle that we had. And the effect of that is to give the director greater latitude and a longer leash to have time to do more of the high level things that the mayor and council would like to see in things like economic development and that sort of thing. Okay. I am actually going to, if it's okay, Steve, I can just continue to control the slides, but I'll turn the time over to you to go through the admin budget, and we'll kind of go back and forth because I'm going to cover the next slide. But if you want to start with this one, Steve.
Sure. So talking about administrative budgets, there's a few in here. Obviously, the city council is under your guys' direction. We didn't have a lot of changes, and that's up to your guys' discretion on what you want to do with that budget. But we've kept most everything the same as in the current year budget. In the administrative budget, there is a new request for a part-time communications specialist. I think Brody will go over that a little bit more in detail on the next slide.
Hey, Steve, before we jump into administration, were there any proposed changes in the council budget that any of the council members would like to make? Are we good on that?
I'm good. Did we, the only thing I saw in there was, I was just had the quick question about the ULCT increase. I think it was just very minimal. Was that, what was the reasoning behind that? It's like $1,000 more or something.
So that is a fee based on 3 different factors: our population, our sales tax, and I'm trying to remember the third one. All 3 of them go up every year, which increases our fee. Last year during COVID, they actually held our rate the same. So I'm not sure what they're going to do this year for fiscal year 22. But because our sales tax, our population, and our property tax, I believe is the third one, goes up. It's just a fee based on those 3 criteria.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on city council budget?
Brody, could I make just a comment here, just to the council?
Yeah.
I would like, if we can work it into the budget, to suggest maybe that in September that we organize ourselves and maybe send all of us or some of us to various conferences or trainings that are done down in Salt Lake. We won't have to travel. There won't be a per diem. But I think it would benefit us to send us down there and then report back what each of us learned in those sessions. I know that I went with Jordan one year when Utopia presented, and that's when I first learned of Utopia, and it was beneficial to me. So I wonder if we could just kind of get that in the back of our minds and see if there's money, maybe we could organize ourselves into, like we did with the legislative session, cover the UTLC meeting in September.
I have no problems with that. Last time we went, I guess in 2019, it was in September. Lisa and I were there, and I believe Dave and Jordan also went. And anyway, they had some really good comments or sessions about growth and how to plan for not having too much parking and how do roads pay for themselves and so on.
And I enjoy having healthy debates with the instructor sometimes.
I enjoy being with you. I love to watch those debates.
Okay. No problem with that.
That's all, Brody.
All right. Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, next line. Every other year we have our election expenses. It's roughly $45,000 to $50,000. That's in this next budget for fiscal year 22. Brody talked about the reassignment of the half FTE from court to admin. It's about a $40,000. So across the board, you don't see an effect, but it is a $40,000 increase to this budget. It's a $40,000 decrease to court. There are some benchmark adjustments in here for admin. And then insurance goes up every year just because we're insuring more things. The big one here is our water tank will come online as fully insurable, and that's about $6,000 or $7,000 a year for that water tank. Next slide, Brody.
Okay. So I'm assuming you saw the slide. I won't go through everything, but the communications specialist position that's being requested, there's kind of 2 factors involved in that decision. One is to advance the prioritized economic plan that the council adopted. They can produce media, promote the city with professional level material, which is different from what we have the capability of now. And then also just public education. on, things like water and paramedics and road construction and then managing our website, keeping it fresh, tends to be a difficult thing for everybody to it's a very decentralized approach right now, because everybody just kind of does what they can with the website, but it's oftentimes just a back burner thing. So that's what's involved with that position. That's a part-time request.
Okay, continuing on with general fund. With our bond closing we just did on Wednesday, we are going to recognize about $35,000 per year in those savings. And if you remember, the bond payment actually is paid from the general fund over to the MBA fund, basically as a lease payment to the MBA and for use of the buildings. So you'll see that a reduction in the general fund, you'll see also a reduction in savings in the MBA fund. Part of this paramedic transition we've discussed, I think we'll get more into this later. And we're trying to make this as smooth as possible with the county. One of the things we're looking at doing is doing the tax change over a 2-year period. So 450,000 this year, 450,000 next year. But as part of that, the county is still going to provide the paramedic service. So we have to pay them the $230,000 that they're using to keep that program going for fiscal year 2022. They're proposing to reduce their tax rate in 2022 and have us pay them that $230,000 fee. So one of the ideas we came up with is if we raise our taxes 450, they reduce theirs 230. We're looking at the possibility of using some public safety impact fees one time this next fiscal year to help bridge that gap. And so that money would be paid to our bond fund normally, and then the reduction of the transfer from the general fund by the 230 would offset that. I don't know if that makes sense, but it would be a one-time 1-year thing. And then the following year, we wouldn't have to pay that 230 to the county. And so it makes it easier and more streamlined for the resident to understand. And we do have excess funds in our public safety transportation fund our public safety impact fee fund to do that. And we can show you that more in detail if you guys have questions on that. Next slide, Brody. So this is Cassie, if she wants to take a moment, or I can cover it, whichever you guys want. There's not much here. It basically shows.
I didn't really
Go ahead.
I didn't really have anything to add besides just the conversation about shifting the different employees through the different departments. And then, yeah, there's no significant changes in my own budget.
Okay.
This is Paul will take over.
Yeah, Paul.
Yep. Yeah, if you can keep running the slides, that's great. Yeah, so as Brody mentioned, there's just that slight change to staffing. Otherwise, it's me and the advocate, and then some admin support. I'm not really proposing any changes in the legal budget. Everything's running pretty well as far as I can tell. With victim services, we'll talk a little more about the VOCA grant cuts. We are likely going to be adding sunset to our agreement. So if you remember about 4 years ago, if you were here, we had wanted sunset to be part of our interlocal agreement with Clinton to provide victim advocate services. You can go to the next slide. This is where we talk about sunset meant. And it was just bad timing. If you may remember, there was issues with the fire department, and there was kind of some turmoil. So they just said, "No, this isn't a good time." This last year, we thought, well, let's ask them again if they would like to join in. It's time for our renewal, so it'd be the time to add them. We met with a couple of their council members, and they were very supportive. We've forwarded information back and forth. It seems like they're probably going to join in. As a result of that, there will be a slight reduction in our contribution to the match. Now, fortunately, we're only, we only have to pay 20% combined between all of us for all of the program costs. So you split that 20% among 3 people. It's pretty good. Now, Sunset's, of course, much smaller than we are, and it has fewer cases. So their share of the match is small, but we should see a little bit of help. One complication this grant cycle is that VOCA funding is way down. And so statewide, UOVC has said, we need everyone to reduce your grant requests by 10% this year and 15% for the following year. Reason for that is that they're getting less money from the feds, and that they believe the reason for that is COVID, actually. So VOCA is not funded by any tax dollars, turns out. It's actually funded by restitution and collections in federal prosecutions. So if a defendant is convicted, they have to pay restitution. Some of that goes into the VOCA fund, and that's how they fund the grants for the whole country. And so with COVID, you've noticed in our city, cases went down. Same thing happened in federal courts. They weren't holding court for a long time, so they just weren't having collections. So much as you hate to say it, hopefully the federal prosecutions will pick up, and we'll have more federal dollars coming in. But for this grant cycle, anyway, these 2 years, it's going to be pretty lean. That's a little problematic for our department because we didn't have a lot of fat to cut. It's pretty much salary and benefits of Celeste. And then we had a few trainings and things like that, but it's not a program that we've really fattened up. So it's a little problematic, but as you can see on this next slide, here's our plan going forward is, we've cut all the expenses. There's going to be one training. It's in the spring. It's the Victim Advocate Major Conference. We've got our tracking software that we pay for every year, which we use for our grant reports, and then just basic supplies, so like postage stamps, and that's pretty much it. There are going to be some additional hours because we even had to reduce the number of hours that are covered by the grant. So the agencies, we're going to have to pick up those hours, assuming we want to keep our full-time advocate, which we do. And so, but with that happening, we can actually have her work on some things that wouldn't otherwise be covered by the grant. So one thing that we talked about is, and she's called upon to try and do this, but she's like, I'm not allowed to do it, is sometimes if we have a suicide in our communities, it'd be nice to have someone who had some training and some experience with helping with the survivors of suicide, so their family and friends, and helping them to connect them with resources. So that's one example. And there are probably others that we'll be able to find over the next few years where we can utilize Celeste's abilities in ways that VOCA wouldn't cover. And then we're hoping that when the next grant cycle comes along, there'll be more funding again, and then we can just shift her back into a full VOCA position. And then that would avoid the problem with supplanting, because we wouldn't be supplanting, we'd be eliminating a program and increasing her work there. But so yeah, looking at the numbers, these are rough estimates. We never know exactly, but expect that this next year, our share of the match should be about 8,500, and then about 13,000 the following year. Last year, our portion was about 7,000. So it's really not that much of an increase for our budgets. And I think it's still a great deal, whether it's, if we had to pay 20,000 a year, I think it'd still be a fabulous deal to have an advocate whenever we need her. So that's our update. Do you have any questions about that?
Are those estimates, Paul, already with the kind of minimal contribution for the match from Sunset, the 8,500 and the 13? Is that?
Yeah.
With that. Okay.
Excellent. So it's really only about 1,350, really,
This year, yeah. I mean, the following year it will be higher. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I mean, it's possible that they'll get more money quickly, and they'll say, hey, if you guys want to amend your grants, then you can. I don't know if that's going to happen. But yeah, if it does, then we would definitely try and get more hours into the grant. And then, if they pay 80%, we only pay 20%, reduce it.
All this is Mike. One of those of us who work with CTC and with North Davis Behavioral Health, they have already, the state has already, and the county has already free programs for counseling suicide victims, or preventing suicide and suicide victims. So maybe we ought to reach out to Jess Bigler and Davis Health to make sure we aren't duplicating something that we can already provide free.
Yeah, that's fine. That was just one thought. I mean, she's handy. The officers are on scene, and she would be able to. It wouldn't be that she'd be doing any counseling. That's not her. That wouldn't be what she'd do. But she would be able to give a little bit of support and connect them with those types of resources. So, I don't think it'd be duplication. It'd probably just be more helping to funnel people the right way.
Right.
like social workers, where you give it several different references.
I know, and I think Corinne and Lisa would say the same thing, that Jess is eager to help. And she is a social worker.
Agreed. Now, Mayor, I don't know if you know, Jess is actually going to be being reassigned to Bountiful.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and we are getting a gal named Viviana. I can't remember her last name. Anyway, she's a great gal too. So
They didn't ask me.
more to come.
Yeah. Jess said that she's going to stick around for a few months and kind of do a slow segue, but yeah, she'll be gone by this fall, I believe.
Okay. All right.
So we've just submitted our grant application just this week. Actually, it was due, and so if these changes give you pause and you want us to pull out of the program, let us know now so we can withdraw our application. Otherwise, we're planning on just moving forward with the expectation that it's going to be funded this way.
Even at 1,300 or 13,000, that's still such an asset to the police and to you. I still think it's a fabulous program. So I
As I move forward.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on legal? Okay, let's move on to the police department. Garrett, do you want to take the reins here?
Sure. You're still going to run them?
If you want me to, yeah.
Yeah. It'll make it easier, I'm sure. All right. So I'll draw your attention to our first slide, because if you'll back up one, Brody.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first meeting or document where we've been able to officially display our state accredited badge. So as I said before, we are only the 12th agency in the state to have achieved that recognition. Okay, Brody, you can go on now. Okay, so this is the areas of focus within ours. Brody already touched on the benchmark adjustments. The second piece will be this would be the second half of our taser conversion. So this is to get new tasers for the fire department. This takes care of the second half. The next bullet is for the crowd control equipment. So this is for this is very light stuff, if you will. This is going to be like helmet, round shield, long stick. This is the hold the line group that I've described to you guys before. This is not the public order unit, which we are taking care of out of our current budget. And then we put about $2,200 in for items related to starting up the crime-free multi-housing program. Most of this is related to training and just some additional office supply things that would go for that. And then I think we had a couple signs in there just as demonstrations so we can show people what it would look like. Okay. The next one is on the traffic unit. So we've included the anticipated salary and benefits for the officers. This would be combining with the one replacement that we still, you allowed us to keep from Garrett Watcott when he was deployed long-term. So that would create the three-person unit. The equipment and training coming up to about 53,000, and then the vehicles and equipment up to 134. Those are a little more expensive than we're used to seeing. And one of the primary reasons is because we don't have radars, we don't have in-car radars, and we don't have the WatchGuard camera equipment to transfer from the old car into the new. So typically when we run those for about 2 life cycles of vehicles, but since these would be brand new vehicles to the fleet, we don't have that equipment to move forward. The last two on this are really just some official papers that I wanted you guys to see. These are like recruiting brochures from surrounding agencies. This is sort of a primer, if you will, for our deep dive, so you can see what's happened in between the last time we talked about this and where things are headed now. And as you see, in most of these, you're starting to see that the starting salary is getting significantly higher than what we're starting out at. You're also seeing that almost all of them are offering master officer programs, which is an effort to try and keep the veteran officers here, because after they, you know, in our circumstance, after they reach PO3, after 5 years of service, they don't get another advancement unless they were to promote. So the idea here is to create something later in their career that would provide an incentive for them to stay. There's also you're starting to see a lot of these sign-on bonuses. So I'm not really pushing that for our agency. I just wanted you to see what they're doing, what other agencies are doing in an effort to lure the lateral officers. And this is just the same thing. It's just showing starting wages. So, any questions for me?
That's big changes happening.
Yeah.
Hey Garrett, just because I don't remember how frequently. So we've done a 2-year on the taser replacement. So they're good for how long again?
It's 5 years from now.
5 years.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett, when you say that you don't really want to push necessarily for the bonus, do you see? I'm wondering if there's more benefit to keeping the officers that we have, and I think there is, rather than just bringing someone on. It's almost like a coupon situation where we get the new customers in, but they may not have the longevity as a client. But do you see? Would you rather have the funding go towards keeping your officers or maintaining what we have rather than bringing in new, or do you think they should be equally funded?
Let me ask you in particular on that. Were you talking about the signing bonuses?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I say that I'm not a big fan of that, I mean, right now I don't have to be, because we've done an incredible job being able to keep this group together. But the biggest problem that I have with it is if you have a group that already feels, you know, you look on paper, they're already underpaid and they're starting to feel that way. And then you get a new position open and you pay somebody new to come in and you give them a bonus to come over to you. It basically tells everybody who stayed that we value the person we're bringing in. And so, you know, to me, I would say that, you know, and I've told you this before, we're always better to invest in the officers we have, because if it really becomes a game of us having to try and compete, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to do, and to be able to replace it at the same level that we would be losing. You know, we don't particularly have a great history of getting veteran officers to come over, which, you know, is hard in the beginning. But over time, you're also getting that person that you get to bring in and put directly into your culture and teach them your way. They don't have any other way of knowing it. So there are advantages maybe long-term, but right up front, that's pretty difficult. But, you know, we got a lot to be proud of with it right now. And I mean this to the council as well, because of your partnership. But I mean, we don't have to think back all that far to remember when we had, you know, 3 years of experience in patrol combined. And, you know, now we're to the point where we only have 2 people who aren't PO3s. So, you know, that's pretty amazing for it to be quite honest. I had a conversation with one of the chiefs in our county when I was down at a training recently, and, you know, they're about the same size. And they were talking about being down 6 officers and that's kind of the norm. And I said, we haven't lost anybody in about 5.5 years. And he was absolutely floored by it.
Wow.
So,
well, I think I agree with your thoughts on that. That is kind of like a, will benefit the new customer rather than the one who's been loyal and stayed longest and has proven their value to us. So, and not that you don't value a new officer as well, but there is a lot to be said for keeping those that we have. Thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned also that just the availability of any applicants is pretty low. So are the enrollments in post lower every year still? I mean, I would imagine this last summer affected a lot of attitudes in being a police officer.
you know what, if I'm thinking he's on, but if Heath's on here, he has direct involvement with our academy, so he could answer that question for you best.
Please.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, I participate with Weber State with the fitness program, and you're right, Corinne. It's pretty low, and what we're seeing now are the ones that are in the academy are sponsored by an agency, so they're being paid by the agency to go through the academy. So if you have a class of like roughly 20, I would say about 15 of them are already picked up by another agency. So we're looking at maybe 5 you can go out and recruit, and if we were to hire and go after in the police academy. So it's low.
So I was talking with Erin last night at our disaster preparedness committee meeting, and she brought up that we may have to reevaluate our hiring policy a little bit for what's allowed on new hires. I guess, I know this isn't necessarily, this is a budget meeting, but what are our concerns there?
What do you mean specifically?
I might need context, Jordan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So she said, like right now, our hiring standards require that they have, absolutely no prior offenses. Their criminal history has to be pretty clean. And she's saying that with a lot of the candidates coming through, some of them, you might have to reevaluate some of those items. Is that something we're seeing as well?
There is some truth to that. An easy one's marijuana. That used to be, that used to be one where if you had admitted to it, you had a 2-year waiting period, and that's been substantially adjusted to from post, simply because you weren't getting applicants. Most of your applicants were going to have usage. So, but there are times when you look at it and think it really depends on what's in a person's background. There are some that are incredibly difficult as far as like things that you would have to look at to overcome, but you want to look at the value of what the person might bring in comparison to what the offense might have been and how long it's been. People can change as they grow up. So I would tell you that I don't think that we've sacrificed our demands of our people. And I'm not sure that that's something I really want to get into. I think I would rather, if we had a candidate pool where we only had one person and there were concerns in what their background was, I'd sooner open it up and, just tell our people, I'm not willing to put this department and the city at risk.
Thanks. But I think I agree. I think the main policy discussion here is keeping those that we have and looking at how we continue to grow the department. So,
yeah. Thank you.
Along those lines, I just want to make one quick comment that, and this is not universal, but it does tend to be more yes than no in this category, and that is just that I think that when people get into incentivizing employees in any industry to jump and change, we'll pay you so much if you come over here. And there's usually some kind of stipulation for you have to stay a minimum period to get that bonus. But it tends to appeal to people who are not as invested in the department, meaning they're more willing to say, okay, as soon as that period's over, I'm going to look for my next bonus check. And I have to say kudos to you and your department that people have stuck together, care more about each other, and that loyalty shows in the level of service. So I hope we don't have to get to trying to lure people with bonus money, not just because of the money aspect, but because of the loyalty aspect.
Okay, any other discussion on the police budget? Okay, seeing none, let's.
Thank you.
Thanks, Garrett. Can you all see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Now we
Resume slideshow.
Let's move on. CED.
we just see a giant
Yeah.
message.
It is exciting.
Resume.
Sorry.
I feel like I
The
should push the button.
anticipation's killing me.
It says my screen sharing is paused. Why is that?
Somebody blocked you.
Type R for resume.
Ah, it worked.
How's that?
That works. Okay, guys, you gotta love budget retreat. I've got some awesome charts and graphs and all kinds of numbers. Are you ready?
Ready.
Yes.
Ready. Well, hopefully, if anything, I don't want this to feel too much like a sales pitch. I just want to take the time and opportunity to at least share with you, the current state of the department. I mean, as you know, we are busy, crazy busy. And so this slide right here, I've just listed out some of the things we have in the works, in the projects, and add them all up. It's about 2,000 units. We only have about 9,000 units in the whole city. So, I mean, we're just at this trajectory right now that is just, we're kind of busting at the seams. I'm a little concerned that we're going to make mistakes, miss things. I've been telling people it's kind of like we're playing a game of Tetris, and the things are falling down and you're trying to move them and get them situated in an orderly fashion, but the speed's picking up and they're starting to stack up. And so, I'm definitely feeling a little bit of stress in our team. So the next slide is the building permits. So total building permits. So this is not just homes, but like solar and all kinds of stuff. So look back just 10 years ago, 273, and this year was the highest. Brenda Leota, she's been working here for a really long time, like 20 years. And she says she's never seen anything over 1,000. Even back in 2007, they had a real big rush. But I have a spreadsheet that has pretty detailed data that goes back to 2010. And so that's what I've been using to create some of these charts and graphs and stuff. But the building permit's a good indication of some of the planning as well, because the planning gets it at the beginning, and then it gets forwarded on. Eventually something gets built as the results of all the planning labor. The next slide is summarizing that data. So along the top row, you can see all the different types of permits that the department gets. Single family development, that's houses. So, and if you see a red, that's the highest on record, right? So you look at 2020 and look at all the ones that were record highs. Record total permits for houses, record remodels, and some of this I think is pandemic, but some of it is also just growth. Mechanical, electrical, sheds, and then there's a lot of second highest: commercial finishes, basements, pools, decks, solar. And so that's where you get that 1033 in the next slide. And so I had a calendar item pop up the other day saying that I've been here 9 years. I went fast. And I remember back when I started, Mike Eggett was the director. We've had multiple directors and quite a bit of turnover. And I remember the staffing levels back then when I started were largely the same as what we have now, with the exception that now we do code enforcement. And so we have another person to do that. But and things have shifted a little bit away from the planning to make up for the added inspections and building permits. Back then, all we had was just the building official / inspector. That was it. So if you look, this is just new homes, and it pretty closely mirrors total permits, but the new homes is definitely a direct correlation with the planning side. And you can just see the sheer number, and there is kind of traditionally a lull in the new homes kind of as winter sets in, and then a peak during the summer months. And you can see that this last, between 2019 and 2020, and between 2020 and 21, that lull is either just really small, or you're still seeing kind of a similar pattern, but it's just at a much higher level. And so the total permits per month that we're processing is just much higher. The next slide is just talking about what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep up with the workload. And so the goal, as Brody's already mentioned, is to get a new planner, which would be about $82,000. That's not what they would take home, but that's including some of the other benefits and things. And if you remember, when I took the director position, I was the development services manager, and we never backfilled that. And when I started, I remember I thought we were maybe going to try to do some economic development consulting or something like that, but that never materialized. So I'm very much still in the trenches. I know that we have a lot of goals that, as far as economic development and some of the higher level visioning kind of things that Brody's anxious to get me a little bit more time to work on. And this new planner would also be able to do some GIS. So we call it a twofer. GIS is the mapping. So that could benefit even Public Works and some of the other departments, and have a little bit more capacity there. I know how to do GIS mapping, but like our zoning map and our general plan map, and sometimes the different departments will call me to help out with things, but that would just be able to increase our capacity there. We also want to train existing staff to do more. So we have Julio. He's our building tech, and he's dealing with processing the building permits as they come in and scheduling inspections in the office. But is what we don't want to do is we don't want to hire an inspector and not have enough work for them and have to let him go if there's a lull or anything. So we think if we can train him to do some of the simple inspections, that'll increase our capacity a little bit, but it's only fair that would come with a little bit of a wage increase. And then, like Brody already talked about, having some overtime. Our team is awesome, and they work really hard. And they are willing to work a little bit of overtime. I'm a little worried about burning them out, but at least we'd have in our budget to make sure that doesn't break the bank if they do have to work a little bit extra. And the next slide talks about hiring professionals. Some of the time-consuming things we just can't get to, or sometimes we don't have the expertise. This first one is the West Davis Corridor interchange. We really want to get a concrete plan in place for landscaping and signage and stuff as you come off of the interchange. This is, this very well could have been, in parks or public works or anything, but because of my background in landscape architecture, we thought that it would be good for me to head that up. And it has a direct correlation to our branding and our economic development, so our image. The next one is economic development goals. So we talked about establishing a TIF area. So we need to get a study with Zions or someone else, or potentially other PEP goals. I think Brody generalized that one, so it's doesn't necessarily have to be the TIF area if we decide on something else. And
Yeah,
then,
there's actually in the RDA budget, there's 15,000 to do the required study for the TIF area, and this one can go towards further efforts in that.
Sure.
That 20,000, that came from, if you recall, in the budget or in the goals retreat, the council discussed, having money available or resources available when an opportunity just shows up on, that we didn't foresee. Somebody comes in and they want to look at putting a commercial development in, but maybe a study needs to be done or something. And
So
so
a
that's
perfect
what
example of that, Brody, is just yesterday, a local developer called me and said that they're interested in potentially, they've been pursuing hotels and they're wondering if we would want to participate in a feasibility study.
Right.
So stuff like that pops up where we can help facilitate some things coming in. And that's pretty common. We've done that in the past over where EOS is going to go. We had commissioned a grocery store study back when Brigham was here. And then the last one is building inspections, temporary help. So that would, if we were, I'm really worried about when the apartments come on. So we have 500 apartments that are essentially approved and will be under construction this summer. When those hit, in addition to the single family homes, in addition to all the other things, if we just, if we get overwhelmed, we might need some help. And so there are third-party firms that we could engage with. I hope that we don't have to use this, but it's good to have that in the plan, I think. Automate applications. So we've been working on, we already have iWorks software. It's basically an online database. But we use it in-house, and we use it for business licensing. You can actually apply for your business license online, but we haven't used it for your building permits yet. In order to do that, it comes with the increased annual fee. And so we've been working on that. We've also been working on getting all of your planning permits online, so you can submit everything, all your plans, your application, pay your fee, the whole bit. And then the second thing is called Bluebeam, and that's for plan reviews, and that's also an annual fee for, we have all our inspectors and our planners on it. We're still trying to get trained on that, but it has an annual fee as well. I just put this together so you can see the overall what's up or down difference from last year. So most of this is up from the salary personnel wages. We've tried to reduce as much as I can in certain areas. So if you see the arrow going down, I'm trying to trim it. And then there's a column that says for reasoning, sometimes there's no change needed or we weren't using it. And like we said, farmers market, this is one that maybe we could have had our own slide on, but the farmers market is kind of like this year-round trickle and then a pretty intense summer time requirement. And I've just been doing that because I'm passionate about it. I love it. I think it's a good thing for the city. We've seen multiple businesses start at the farmers market that are now brick and mortar, like Waffle Stop and Layla's Luau. They were all at the farmers market to start out. So it's a good thing. But we have seen the attendance dwindle in recent years. We didn't do it last year because of COVID. And you just really need somebody that has the attention and time to do it. And I just don't have the capacity right now to do it. So I'm proposing it's not a big budgetary difference, but it's $3,600 that we could cut out. But yeah, that's CD. The big item is that planner. And that would really help our department just with the increased amount of work that we have.
Okay, questions?
Pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Appreciate all the thoughts about that. And I like the breakdown from the last 9 years from when you started to where we are now. And I was just thinking about if we end up with a communications director, I think that eventually we'll be able to bring back the farmers market, because there will be I just think communication's key. It's one of those things, if it's on your mind all the time, then you tend to think, oh, let's run down there or see what they're showing. And the communications department can maybe spotlight some businesses or what they have there. But I can see that coming back again, even if we take a reprieve for a few years.
Yeah, when I first started, I had a lot more time to dedicate, and I was like putting up banners with balloons the day of all over the town and posting all over Facebook and really drumming up. We even like did what's the school district mass email that they do?
Oh,
Peach jar,
Peach
Yeah,
jar.
Peach Jar. We were paying for that. We put it in, we were like really actively trying to get it going, and it was really good for a few years there. But in the later years, I just didn't have the time to do all that. And you're right. Like if you're not like constantly hounding people to think about it, they just don't come.
Okay. How are we doing on time, Mayor?
We've got scheduled a break in 8 minutes.
Okay. We're at a breaking point going into the fire department, which might take a little bit of time. Do we want to take that break now or?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. So how long is that break? Did we say 10 minutes?
10 minutes. Let's see if we can meet back here about, well, in 10 minutes, about 12 after or 13 after.
Okay. 10 minutes. Do we log off and let's log back on? What do you want us to do?
No, just turn if you
No,
want.
just
Turn your mic
Turn the
off.
video
yeah,
off.
just stay on and I'll just pause the recording for a second.
Okay.